You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast. Stories of overcoming obstacles and finding self-empowerment with Sherisse Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader.
Hey everyone, I'm really excited because this is the first time I've had two guests on at one time, so this is really exciting for me. And I have the lovely Becky and Ruth from Honest Property Sisters. And what's really lovely about it, I said to the girls at the beginning, is they obviously are sisters, they work together. Me and my sister are quite close, I talk about it all the time. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you because I feel like it's like a peek into your life. So yeah, thank you for being here, girls.
Oh, thank you so much for having us. This is a conversation that we've yet to really go into very much. Sherisse reached out to us on Instagram and we shared quite a vulnerable post, much to do about identity, and I think we have very layered backgrounds. I think especially Sherisse, you're very got lots of beautiful layers to your background. So yeah, I think when you have a multi-layered identity, I suppose. There's a lot more unique obstacles and work to overcome, I suppose. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's really the reason why we wanted to have this conversation, right? Is we wanted it to become more accessible, I think, because so many people that I know that are mixed heritage or, you know, from an ethnic background that people don't recognize, I think the struggle to feel like you fit in and that you are seen as everything you are, I think is really complex, and I think it needs to be spoke about more. You know, like I've always done a lot with diversity and inclusivity and ethnicity in my work, so I feel like when you guys opened up that conversation, I was like, yes, this is what we need to be speaking about. Especially, I mean, you all have had such success in your business and creating that, but I know that there would have been elements even in that journey that would have played a part. So if you want to kind of dive into your background, your heritage, and kind of how that's shaped your life as women.
Go back to kids. Let's go back to the beginning. Do you want to?
You
okay.
You get
right. So Ruth and I were born in, we're essentially half Filipino and half British. Born in the UK, moved to Hong Kong and grew up there between Hong Kong and the Philippines. And then later on, later on, we then moved back to the UK
to be closer to our British grandparents.
And then went to go to school here. And we lived in a very predominantly white neighborhood. We were actually like the ethnic corner because our neighbor was is like Italian and Iranian, and then the neighbors opposite were Indian, but like I felt like it was just us on that corner. Everyone else was like, we didn't really know like, what would you expect? We're in England, like most people are gonna be British, like obviously,
but also at school as well. We went to an all-girls school, and there were no Filipinos at our school at all, so we didn't have that connection where we went to school.
And I feel like in England, at least, when people think Asian, they think East Asian, they think Indian, and like that's it.
So they expect you need to look Chinese or you look Indian, and those are the only two types of Asian that you can look like. And if you don't fit into that category of what you look like, of that look, then they go confused. And then like Filipinos, they can look very like what they say, the Mexican Asians.
They say like the Mexico of Asia, because we have Spanish colonial heritage. And then as a mixed race person,
you all look different.
You all look
so different.
And I come across as a lot of people tend to think I'm Latina. And I think, I don't know, my self-perception is so warped because I really don't know what I look like.
And we grew up in a family household where our mum raised us with very strong Asian values. So inside the house, I don't know if you ever experienced this as well, but inside the house it was Asian. Outside the house it was British. So there was always a bit of a conflict of feeling like you were living this double life.
Like fitting in a box,
and not fitting in a box,
filling out a form. Sorry, we're like rambling, so we're obviously exploding with things to say.
But I'm so white on the outside, but inside I'm like a little brown girl. But like you can't see it because I am physically, I literally look like so white.
Yeah.
So it was very hard psychologically to feel
like you fit in.
anywhere. And like
Mm.
even with my friendship group, I have very white, well, they are all white friends. I personally, I think maybe gravitated because I was like, well, I obviously look white, so that's where I'm going to fit in. But I was still the token Asian in the group.
Yeah, there's so much that you've said there that I really resonate with completely, and I think it's so important. And I'm glad that I just let you kind of say what you needed to say. And there's more, obviously, that we're gonna cover, but I think it's just like I almost feel like you've let the lid off now, and you can just allow it all to flow. And that's exactly yeah, but that's exactly the space, because I think that there's so many people listening probably thinking that, oh my gosh, that's been my whole life. And we have all tried to fit into the societal norm that we're in. So we did become, more quote unquote white, because that was what society felt like was beautiful and accepted and all of those things, right? Like I had such a complex with the way I looked my whole life, because like you said, I felt like I was that weird brown girl. And you said something really key there about, if people don't understand what it is, they can't comprehend it. So then they try to associate you with something they do know. And then that's them being really narrow-minded, right? Like my whole life, and my family are from Guyana, which is in South America. But because I look very Indian, people just automatically think that I'm Indian. And when I say Guyana, they'll say Ghana in Africa, and they're like, oh my God, you don't look like you're from Africa. And I'm like,
I
what?
didn't say that.
Yeah,
What?
honestly. And then similar to you, I get sometimes people are like, oh, are you Mexican? Or any country I go to, they'll speak to me in the language. That's why I felt like I had to learn Spanish, so at least I can speak back to people now. But for me, it depends how I have my hair. So if I have my natural curl, then obviously people are more like, oh, you look so exotic. Whereas when my hair is straight, then I might get, oh, are you Latino? Are you Spanish? Are you Indian? It's just this thing that people want to put you into a box so they understand you. But as long as you're okay with being a free-flowing energy or whatever you identify as, I think that's really the key, isn't it, to all of this? And I can imagine that your culture is so beautiful that, yeah, I'd love to know kind of how you feel about where you sit now in terms of how you view yourself as women, and how your culture integrates into everything that you are now.
Oh my gosh, there's just so much to say. So following on from what you've said, even as an adult, and you have to fill out like obviously a lot of people growing up have their own insecurities about not fitting in, being mixed race or multiracial, or even like third culture kids probably get this a lot. Are you third culture? Yeah, so like there's so much more to unpack there about not feeling like you belong somewhere. But that goes forward even to adulthood, because there'll be a lot of like even medical forms, and it'll be like tick a box, and it's like other, like, and then sometimes there's no other box, and then you're like, can I take two?
It's only changed now, hasn't it, since COVID happened? But we used to go, which one do we pick?
Yeah.
And then you'd have to end up being,
because then it'll say Asian, and then it'll say
just Caucasian,
and then I'm like, what?
But which one? Like, which one is it? And now it says mixed, which is amazing.
Not even
but
always.
not always.
No. Okay. So yeah, I always got I already said, I got the Latina thing, and in the end, Ruth's friends were all British. Mine ended up being very diverse, because I was like, we're all the miscellaneous, we'll just gravitate to.
But I wish I did that really growing up, but I think I just so badly wanted to fit in. But then now in my 30s I go, wow, I had so many. If I had just not tried so hard to fit in with my white friends, I think I wouldn't had such insecurity, because I still didn't fit in. So I was forcing myself to feel like I was also very British. So I thought, well, if everyone sees me as British, then I am British. And I think there was a part of me that maybe was when I was younger, that felt like, well, I'm not, because I don't look Filipino, then I'm not accepted. As because we did, even from the Filipino community, it was always pointed out as well.
Well, the British girls are
the
here.
British girls are here. You were never seen as like Filipino either.
Yeah.
So when we used to go back to see our family in the Philippines, like our grandma, who was our Lola in Filipino, she lived in the province, and when we'd go back, there was no white people at all.
So there was a lot of eyes on us, which just made us feel even more like you didn't fit in. But just as like on a flip side, it was kind of a blessing. Like you're saying, we look very what's the word? We don't ambiguous. That's the word. We look very ambiguous. So that means we can move around the world and kind of integrate and have I think a nicer experience because people assume we're local.
Yeah, like when we were in Hong Kong, when we were in Hong Kong, it was a while ago now, but people used to think maybe because of the way my haircut was or how I dressed back then, but everyone thought I was Chinese. So the Chinese would speak to me in Chinese there and didn't realize that I wasn't Chinese.
Or if we went to Thailand, like people just were like, "Oh, hi," in Thai. Or like I went to Cuba and everyone just assumed I was Cuban, and I was like, why not?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and that's actually really lovely, isn't it? Because I think when you feel like you don't belong, to go to places and they want to adopt you into the culture, you're like, yes, thank you, I'll take that. I love that. That's so lovely. And I think there's something about like how we respond to these things, right? Because as you said, like we all see it as a blessing to be like, oh, they think that we're part of their culture, but there'll be some people that don't feel happy about that. Like I've seen it quite a few times when say for example you meet a group of people, and men particularly, and this is only my example, it could be very different, but if you meet a dark-haired man, sometimes I say, oh, you look a bit Italian, and they're like, I'm not Italian, I'm Scottish, and I'm like, whoa, okay, sorry. Do you know what I mean? And it's like there's really a thing about it, isn't it? And I think it's a real personal perception, but I believe that when all you've had is diversity and trying to belong, that when that conversation comes up to you and someone says to you, like now when someone says to me, oh, are you Indian? I'm like, oh no, I mean there's some lineage in my heritage, but it's not a direct route. Whereas when I was younger, because everyone kept thinking I was Indian and I wasn't, and what the perception of Asian culture was around me is that Indian culture was people were quiet and they did what they were told. So at that time in my area I was really offended. I was like, no, that's not who I am. Now I'm not sure. I was like, if you want me to be Indian right now to make you understand, I will take that. I mean, I know what I am, but if that is good for you, sure, and that's not always the right way to be about it. But sometimes it's that, the Mel Robbins quote, let them. It's almost that, isn't it? Like, I don't want to get in a conversation with you about my heritage. If you want to believe it, you go ahead.
I think it's a coming of age thing, isn't it? Because we definitely had the same experience. I think especially when you're a teenager and then you're going through all these hormonal changes and people are constantly telling you, even into our 20s, constantly telling you, you don't look like who you are. And you don't look like
you didn't need to say that.
But it's always by what you look like. And I think it gets to a point where it's such a trigger.
It's like someone described it this way, and I was like, this is such a good way to explain it. It's like having a mosquito bite you, and it's not like a big deal each time, but after a while it gets really annoying. There was like always an anxiety whenever somebody was like, where are you from? And it's like such a broad question. It's like, do you mean where do I live? Where did I grow up?
Yep.
What's my heritage like? But then I also cannot be bothered to waste my energy and be like, but what do you really mean?
And I think definitely in our 30s now, I think you kind of let go of it a lot.
Absolutely.
Every so often, maybe when we're on our period, someone asks.
Yeah.
And that's like that insecurity kind of pops back up every so often of going, thanks for reminding me I don't feel like I belong. And I know that's like something that we've got to work on, I guess, forever. to really just allow that to, for if anyone makes comments like that, to go, okay, that's fine, you know, like people see what they see, and let's not try and take it so personally.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I think it can be both, you know, like I think that it will always be something that you are aware of, and I don't think it makes it fair for other people, because I think that this is that thing where we're like, oh, it's just the way I am, so I accept it. But I don't think that's okay. Like I do believe that culturally, and I think it's happening, is that people need to be more educated in the world and what people look like. And I think that on a grand scale, like if you guys come to London, so diverse, you know, everyone is from somewhere else. No one's asking that question anymore. No one's saying you're from there. But when you come from a small town, and I mean, my town isn't particularly small, but it used to be in diversity. It was literally, I was like one of three people of color in my school, until I got to my teenage years. That's when you get honed in on being different, don't you? But I think that really is for the outside world, and it isn't our responsibility as people of color to be educating these people. It should be them that are saying, right, I don't know about this. And this is why for me I think travel's so important, because as you said, you know, all the places you guys have visited, equally to me, that's where you feel that sense of belonging, because no one is trying to fit into anywhere. They're all trying to explore, which is so beautiful. But one thing in my life that I really noticed, and this is really vulnerable to share, but I think it's really important, is that when it came to dating for me, I was always aware that I was different, and it always gave me like this little, if I dated a English person, like a white English person, I was always concerned that what would their family think, and what would they think of me. And I just want to put that to you, to ask you, did that ever cross your mind as well?
A little. I've had my own experiences. Obviously, when anyone meets our family, it would be very hypocritical for them to be bothered about the race of that person. So our family genuinely don't. I think our mum always made a point. She's like, I don't care if they're blue, as long as they're like a nice person.
Yeah, same.
But when I've dated other people in the past, I've been, I guess I felt fetishized.
Yeah.
And I hated it. And they just kept bringing up that I was like exotic or Asian, and I was like, it just made me feel a bit like icky. And like, yes, I'm a little different. Can we move on? Or I would try and like integrate my family with theirs, and our family are quite colorful and loud, and I guess kind of eccentric,
and very much like as soon as you walk in through our mum's house, it's like, have you eaten? What have you eaten? Have you eaten? Let me feed you. Like straight away, there's always hospitality from the get-go. But sometimes when you go into other friends' houses, you don't get that same greeting, and that was confusing because we thought that was normal.
When we were trying to get like my mum, particularly my mum, to meet or invite my partner at the time's mum to like socialize, or no, my mum was going out of her way to like invite my partner's at the time's mum to socialize. It was for a very colorful party that had kind of strange food and for that person, and I could see her looking very out of her depth, and it's not like it's her fault either, but there are some instances where it's like there is discomfort there. There's definitely discomfort there, and I don't really know what to do about it. I don't have that problem anymore. We're obviously no longer together. But yeah.
I think as well, like, I mean, luckily times are changing. I know now, like my friends that are just white, they love culture. So like any time, like if I had a family event on, they're like, oh my God, I'm coming. You know, like it's just one of those things that I think the people that are still with me now are so integrated into culture, you know. And I think similar to you guys is that all of my family look completely different as well, because we also have influences from like Africa and from China and Portugal in Guyana itself. And then obviously everyone starts to blend out, don't they? So then their partners are all different. So my family partners are exactly the same, so full of culture. And it's funny because I think that most ethnic people that I meet, so whether it's other Caribbean people. Now, Caribbean people know about Guyana, so it's very easy conversation. But African people, they're not always sure. So they're like, how do you know about reggae, bashment, and dancehall? I'm like, I grew up with this stuff, my friends. I grew up with it, and it's funny because the African heritage Caribbean people, they've grown up listening to, it's called chutney, and it's actually a mix of the soca music and the Indian music together. So then,
That's
like,
amazing.
yeah, so some of the African culture people, they can do Bollywood dancing and they're so used to it. So it's the Caribbean is such a hub of diversity. So when someone is directly from that place, they'll be like, oh, you're Guyanese, and I'm like, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Or Trinidad even is another one of those. But I think it's just we've kind of touched upon it a few times. It's like how it fits into our norm, isn't it? Like this ideal of culture. And I think now, I don't know if you feel differently, like it's such a beautiful thing, isn't it? Culture, like.
Do you feel like sometimes I go, am I just in an echo chamber that now, just because, well, in the UK we are very diverse because we have a lot of different people that have come into the UK, but if you go to other places, different countries, it's not as
diverse as here, like London.
Exactly, yeah, like London and Bristol, there's a huge amounts of diversity. So sometimes I go, am I just in a bubble? But I'm so glad to be able to see that we are becoming more and more mixed race because we are globalized. And I really hope for the future that little mixed race babies don't feel that
they're the only ones anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the talk about diversity as well recently has been it's been more aimed at monoracial people. So for trying to uplift people like Black communities or Asian communities, but the discussion hasn't been around for people who are multiracial. And it's like, what if you sit in between? What if you're Black and Asian?
We went on a whole whirlwind when it was COVID, and then there was also the Black Lives Matter movement, and we were like,
that was the tipping point.
It was a tipping point.
That was when we were like, okay, I want to understand who I am and like what these feelings are. This feeling of not belonging. And there was no room really at the time for discussions about if you are mixed race, because you have your own unique experience. And basically after all that, like by the age of 30, I finally came to the acceptance of who I really was. And it's I'm white, I am Asian, Southeast Asian, and I'm mixed race. Those are three identities that you can have in one person. It's not like I'm half of this and half of that. You can't neglect one parent over the other. I'm proudly both my
There's
parents.
also another layer as well, and especially in the Philippines that we've also got, is that there is a big expectation on mixed race people to be beautiful. So because you've got the lighter skin, there's a lot of colorism, I'd say, but it's if you don't. So our mum, love her, because we have like lots of different cousins who are mixed race, and sometimes you'd have some people in the Philippine community say, oh, well, they're mixed race but they're not beautiful, and my mum would always be like, well, they're all different, they're all beautiful. But I think there's so much expectation and pressure that if you are mixed race, you need to look a certain way, and that's really hard, because if you don't look like beautiful, then someone's going to say something about it.
Yeah, I absolutely understand what you mean with that as well. It's almost like that tokenism, isn't it? It's like you're mixed race, so you are now a beauty queen, or and even within Black and white mixed race as well. Like a lot of my close friends and family are mixed heritage in that respect. And I remember being with them and people saying to them, oh, you're not that beautiful for a mixed race person. And you're like, what the hell? Honestly, that's like someone that I don't know very well. And again, I've been there to sort of say, hold on a minute, that's not okay. We don't do that. But I also I believe that everyone's beautiful. So when I see people, I look at them and see the beauty in them anyway, because I think that's how my brain's wired. And what I know for sure is that people view you how they view themselves. So if they don't feel very beautiful in themselves, then obviously they're going to judge you based on that anyway. But it is, especially I know in Asia particularly, it is about white, isn't it? White is beautiful to them. So any part of Asia you go to, whether it's India or China or anywhere around, like, you know, Southeast Asia, it is all about that. So pageants, even, for example, you know, so huge over there, aren't they? So that ideal of beauty and not fitting into the beauty standard, I completely agree with you on that. But the flip of that, I don't know if you all felt the same, is that when you come to England and you're living in England, their ideal of beauty is different. So then, like, navigating how you feel beautiful when you don't fit into like either of the ideals, I guess, is that right? And I think that was something that I really had to work through, you know. And I because I always saw myself as this ugly little brown girl, that when I was performing and people would tell me, oh, you look beautiful in that, I wouldn't believe them. So I had a real body dysmorphia because I felt like I was fat, ugly, and no one fancied me. And because I was so much in my masculine energy of survival, I didn't let anyone like in to support me or love me. So actually the kind of gated fence around myself I'd created for myself, and it was only when I decided to take that down that I realized I am actually worthy of love, I am beautiful, I am good enough, and all of those things. And I think that it's important that we're talking about this for those reasons, because there will be someone on there that might even be an older woman that's listening to this thinking, oh my gosh, like, yes, I really identify with that.
100%. Yeah. Firstly, I've got to say this, before we jumped on the call, Ruth and I were like, Sherisse is stunning. She's a beautiful woman. So yeah, firstly, yeah, I don't know, I totally relate with the dysmorphia thing. I still don't really know how I come across to people because of the ambiguity.
I did have a family member actually tell me that I would be more beautiful if I removed my freckles.
Beauty standards are just different everywhere.
But then it's hilarious because then freckles came in vogue. And then everyone was going, are they real? Are they real? I'm like, yes.
And you're right. In Asia, in eastern parts of Asia, it's like if you have, you're seen as, I don't know if anybody knows this, but basically if you have lighter skin, it means that that's a class status, because it means you don't have to go work in the fields.
Because in the Philippines, it was colonized by the Spanish, and
they were lighter
in color. Yeah.
Whereas I learned recently in places like Hawaii, if you are and there's quite a big Asian population there, but it's quite unique. If you are seen as light, that's actually a bad thing because you are seen as a colonizer. You're coming across as colonizer. So they all kind of want to be dark. But yeah, of course, in England or like Western societies, if you're dark, it means you can afford to go on holiday.
Yeah, like you're always having a tan.
Yeah, I love that. And also maybe I need to move to Hawaii.
So we have seen, especially on social media quite recently, a lot of the Gen Z millennials who are claiming the morena skin and just like being really proud of it, and that's so lovely to see.
Yeah.
They are just so much more with it. Like I always say this, like when I was teaching, I just felt that cultural shift had completely changed, and everyone is celebrating their culture. You know, like when it comes to like the bring aboard type of thing, they're bringing something from their heritage. Like that is a party I want to be at. I want to taste the food from your homeland. I want to know. You know what I mean? I love culture so much, and I think, you know, this is for me again when I come back to that travel aspect. If you don't have anyone around you that is culturally diverse, go and see the world. I think it's so important that we are opening our perspective, and our perspective is the right word, isn't it? Of just culture as a whole. But even when you said there about the colorism, that is across the board, you know, in places in Africa as well. If you're lighter, you're deemed as more beautiful. So just everywhere has had this notion about that. And I'm so pleased to see that there are these stunning supermodels that are super dark skin. And for me, I again, I love ethnicity. So I'll look at anyone, I think they're beautiful. But I do love dark skin. I see it on people and I'm like, I'll go out of my way to tell someone they're beautiful on purpose, because I'm like, not even because I don't know what they've been through, but because I'm like, you need to hear that today. Like I will go out of my way to tell people.
Yeah. I'm like, I
Yeah.
can appreciate a beautiful human, and you are beautiful.
Like in the Philippines, they're really into their beauty pageants, and it was so one year, I can't remember her name, but she was stunning, and she had
Oh, she
beautiful
was
dark
like
skin and short
black and
hair.
Filipino, wasn't
Yeah,
she?
and she was stunning, and it was the first time just seeing everyone really celebrating her. Because in the Philippines, they're very into their whitening soap, so that's still
There's a lot of whitening
there's a lot of
products.
whitening products, and for the country to go to really be like, yes, like really cheering her on, it was like, wow,
Huge
we've really
shift.
shifted in like what's seen as beautiful, and it's just so.
But maybe it took like our generation to go through all those
Absolutely.
problems and that frustration and feeling like you don't fit into a box tidily for that change to happen. So I guess, was it worth it? Maybe, because like things have changed.
Yeah.
But on the back end of that as well, not feeling like we belong kind of forced us to give up on feeling like we do. And because of that, in hindsight, that's actually really attributed to where we are with our business, because we were like, well, we didn't belong in the first place, so it doesn't matter what you think, we're gonna go do the thing anyway.
I think also I would say maybe that insecurity of not belonging is also that's given us a drive to prove that we're good at stuff. And I think like, so I am grateful, like to turn it around, I am grateful, because all that insecurity really made us have an attitude where we're not going to quit.
Yeah.
So I am really grateful for that.
I completely agree with you. I've had the same experience. I was like, okay, I don't fit into a box anyway. I always say to people, I stand out like a sore thumb wherever I go. So now I'm going to put bells and whistles on, and I'm going to dance around while I'm here, so you can watch me for the right reasons, you know? But also, I think on a deeper layer of that, and I feel like you guys are probably doing exactly the same thing, is that because I felt like I didn't belong, everything I do is to make people feel like they belong now. Like every part of my work is about that, you know? And I think, I don't know if you've looked at it like this, but I think property, you are creating literal homes for people. So it's almost like a layer of like the home inside of you gets to create an actual physical home for someone else, which is such a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
100%. Like, well, we only started really sharing who we are with the world as of last February. And like the response has been so lovely, because we basically just wanted there to be someone online that if there was anyone who was like us, could see someone else like them as well online, because our options were very limited at the time. It was a very bro culture when we started. Like what do we keep calling it? Golf and Gucci guys. And
oh my God, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. I'm gonna quote you all if I use that again.
all these Golf and Gucci guys, and we were like, it's nice, but it's not us. It's like us. That's not our goal. Our goal is time and location freedom. We
want to travel, have adventure, and like look after our family and meet amazing people who are the same.
Yeah, like people who value experiences over things. Maybe they felt like they were the black sheep. We wanted to make a space for them, and it's just been so lovely, this journey so far, that there are people. When we started, we were like, maybe there's no one out there, like maybe we're the weirdos in the property space, and no one's gonna like want to be friends with us.
We're just having a laugh.
Let's just have a laugh. Oh yeah, everyone's really serious as well. We were like, can we just make finance a bit more fun?
It's so it's so boring. Of course, like, you know, growing your investment portfolio or investing in stocks and shares, it's slow and steady. Like the real wealth is from slow and steady, but like let's make it a bit more fun
along the way.
It's like, so serious.
I agree. I think that's so lovely. And I think, like, as I said to you all, like when we jumped on and you guys came in and we were running around, I was like, I love all of that. For me, like my quest is humanness, right? And I feel like if I was in the property game and I came across you all just talking and like all of the things, I'd be so drawn to you all, because again, I feel like I see so many women in your industry doing it like the men. And you know, a lot of the things I teach now in my work is about that divine feminine leadership, which is embracing all of us, you know, the softness, the empathy, the collaboration. It's not about I'm standing on top of the mountain looking down on you. It's like, I'm going to help you up this mountain because I know how to climb it, you know. And that's so beautiful, and I love that that's part of your story.
We did start that way though, with thinking that we needed to be masculine, wearing blazers, and now we had a good think about who we wanted to be. I think admittedly also when I had a kid, that changed everything. We went, we don't want to be like this anymore.
It's
tiring.
It's
It's tiring, and
women,
it is.
like, if you sit in your masculine for too long, comes
Like,
toxic,
in honesty,
and
it
it's not
burnt us out.
sustainable. Yeah.
No, absolutely that. And that's exactly the thing that I lived in my life was I was so in my masculine and survival mode. So everything I did was to prove. I was proving all of the time. And then now in my business, now I'm like, I have nothing to prove to anyone. I managed to make a career out of being a dancer. And now I get to make a career out of helping women find who they are and live the life they want. I was like, there's nothing I have to prove. I'm doing exactly what I feel like I've came here to do. And I feel like if I'm not the right mentor for someone, there'll be someone else there. But it doesn't mean that we can't all still be connected, right?
Thing is, the information's not new, especially investing. This is evergreen information. You just pick somebody who's done it. Like, you always have to learn from a person who's done like a few steps ahead of you, right?
Yeah.
And it's better to select somebody who you resonate with and who is living the life that you want to live. So if you want to be the golf and Gucci guy in Dubai,
Then go
be
find that person.
he will tell you the same thing
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
But if you value a lifestyle that's more adjusted to having more time and location freedom with a little bit of like some laughs in it, then we're your people.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And
Yeah.
you get 2 for the price of 1, guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
2 for 1.
No, I love that. Well, for anyone that doesn't actually know about your business, do you want to just give a little bit more information? Because again, these listeners might be like, do you know what? I actually want to know what that is. So please, just tell us about what you do.
So we teach people how to build a buy-to-let portfolio, nice and Warren Buffett style. So because because we've been through all the mistakes of getting sucked into shiny penny strategies that took us away from what we wanted from our life, which was less stress, just investing wisely for the long term and being able to have location freedom, basically. And what we got into was we have experience in HMOs, buy-to-let, service accommodation. We even did rent to rent, and I will admit that was our shiny penny strategy. No hate there. It just removed us from our goals. And we have just gone, you know what, we've just created something that's like I said, evergreen, and it is something that everyone should get started with. Instead of trying to do all of these other strategies, we've kept it simple.
So we've got a beginner's roadmap to building a buy-to-let portfolio, and it's a self-paced course for all the mamas as well back at home who want to like do it around the kids or do it around your work. Self-paced course with me and Ruth guiding the whole way, and then at the end of the course there is a community group where you can reach out to other honest property investors.
It's a free community group, so we wanted to make sure that we created a space for community, because that is something we did not have in the beginning. It was just us. The whole reason why all of this birthed was because we were sick of the fluff and like the falseness in the industry. And also we've always been entrepreneurs, and we really believe that if you want to continue to be a freelancer, solopreneur, a small business owner, investing at the same time as having your passion business is the way to be able to stay in it in the long run without feeling burnt out and only relying on that one source of income. So that's why we're so pro investing, diversifying in investing whilst enjoying a business that you love.
Yeah, I love that so much. I feel like everything you said was such a topic of conversation that I have with my own friends and like women that I speak to. Like everyone is thinking the same way at the moment. And, I sort of dabble in astrology. I say dabble, I am in astrology. And yeah, well, we're in the age of Aquarius now. So it is all about that. So you're going to find such an uproar in your business, not an uproar, that's the wrong way, uptake in your business, because people are in this space, especially women. Like it's about this divine union now with the energy of, we're connecting with our divine masculine energy. We're not forcing anymore, but we're understanding that there's more that needs to come from this and from ourselves. So I think that so many women will be like, yeah, I want to learn from other women that are doing the same thing, that are also in the same space. And I love that. I think it's so important and so heart-led. Like I can feel it from both of you that this is actually just not a business. This is like a whole life's purpose, you know, which is so wonderful to see. But one thing I want to ask you is, where did the name Honest Property come from? Like the honest part of that?
From hard lessons.
Hard lessons. Just being, I guess, blindsided by other people online and just having poor interactions with, I guess, dishonest people in the space.
It was we realized that we did have a partnership. We won't name who because we, you know, but it did lead us to many hard lessons because we didn't trust our guts. And we realized how important it was for us to trust our intuition.
Oh my gosh, trust, like
as women, not
absolutely
from the masculine. That was the turning point, the catalyst to go.
It was like the situation we did several projects, several deals, paid a lot of money to do all these projects in a very short amount of time, and on paper it looked like it worked out, but the energy between us and that person, it was so off. And it was like, even if maybe logically this is meant to be, it was like we already knew this wasn't going to last, but we didn't listen to our intuition.
We didn't listen to it.
And that's because
because the masculine way of doing business was clouding our judgment. And now we are so in tune with really just doing business how we want to do it. And we parted ways and
be like, we're going to disrupt the space, and it's time for us to just be like, we don't want anyone else to feel like to go, like we want people to have an honest space about property.
And we don't want people to have to go through what we went through.
Yeah, but you know what? That is literally it. That what you just said there is like, we have to learn the lesson first, so then we can teach it. And that literally is the full circle of all of it, isn't it? Is that we have to go through it to then be able to teach it. And that's integrity, you know, like leading with integrity is like, I've learned this way, so now I'm going to show you so you can avoid what I went through, you know. And that's such a beautiful space to be in, and so needed in this industry, as you said, for those golf guys and Gucci, you know, like it's actually like now it's going to be, I'm trying to think of a feminine way of doing it, like tea and biscuits or something.
Why our podcast is called the Honest Property Podcast.
But we just want to highlight that we always say wealthy looks different on everyone. And it was the first time we went, we don't need to do it this way. Let's do it the way we want to do it. And that's okay. Just because we don't want that flashy car or designer handbag doesn't mean that we're less off.
There's no hate on that either.
There's no hate.
If that makes you happy, that's absolutely fine.
If it makes you happy, but it doesn't give us joy.
No. If your wealth is quality time with your loved ones and freedom to be where you want to be when you want to be there, that's our wealth. So
I completely agree with you. I think the same thing. When I was in my dance career and I'd had some really big jobs, my whole goal was to buy a pair of Louboutins, and especially because I'd spent most of my life single and all of my friends had some from their men that they'd bought them for, and it was always their gifts. I was like, no, do you know what? I'm going to buy them for me. Now, I think the ego wanted the shoes, but actually I realised that it was almost like a coming of age thing, you know, like it was like, no, I can do this for me too. So I feel like that was almost an example of ego, but also an example of like, actually, it's okay to want that too, you know. Now I sort of think, why did I spend £600 on a pair of shoes? But, you know, it's
good to celebrate milestones as well.
Exactly.
So important, whether you do it materialistically because that's what makes you happy or not.
Also, I got to say, from an investment point of view, there are certain items like art and bags and shoes even that are good investment choices. So as long as you make smart investment choices with those things, alternative.
That's exactly what it was, a smart choice. They're really good. They're a lovely pair of shoes as well. They hurt like hell, but they're amazing. So, you know, they look good. They'll last the test of time. Maybe they'll go up in value. Maybe in 10 years they'll be worth £6,000, and I'll be like, look, that was what I did. I invested in that.
What you got to do is find someone who sells vintage designer, and then that's the good sweet spot, because then you still look great, but it's at a fraction of the price.
Yeah, absolutely that. I mean, to be honest, now I'm not really that bothered about designer stuff. It's funny, isn't it? I think like when you go through that like, evolution of your soul, it's like, do I need things? You know, like I'm just so happy now to just spend my money on travel and I guess investing into whatever it is I'm creating and all of those things. But again, there's no wrong or right in that, is it? We're just celebrating humanness, which I think is important, you know, like to remind people that we are human in this space. And I think that, you know, we can keep growing to the next part and the next part, but if we're not just taking ownership of where we are right now and saying, oh, this has been all of the journey, I'm going to enjoy this part, you know, that we just get caught up in everything else as well. But I guess I mean, I've loved having you both on here. It's been really nice to just
Thank you so
We could
much.
chat forever.
yeah, absolutely. And I think like I love both of your energy and how you feed off of each other. It's so nice, and I hope the listeners have enjoyed this too, because I think it's just I feel like everything I do is about that reality, the honesty of it all, you know. But one thing that I do like to ask is, the first question is, when was the moment that you feel like, and you can be individual answers, that you gave yourself the permission to shine?
I'll go first.
Yeah, you go first.
I think that was actually coming onto social media and going, we're going to put ourselves out there and not be insecure about what people think about us, and accept that if people don't like us, that's okay. But it was the first time, I think, really stepping out of comfort zone, because I don't really go on social media at all. And I'm quite private generally. So that was like a big stepping stone for me personally. But I'm so glad we did, because I'd never met so many amazing people online. So that was like, I'd say that's my shining moment, was stepping out of that comfort zone and meeting amazing people virtually.
For myself, I think we were talking about this a little bit yesterday. There's been a series of moments, and the first moment that I let myself shine was I decided to try modeling, and that was that was more for a self-confidence point of view. And I posted the pictures, and they were vulnerable pictures. It was like a side of myself that was very uber feminine in my 20s, so a little while ago now. But that was the moment that I felt like I really let the world see a side, like my femininity, and a side of me that I never really showed before. And then from then on, it was continually practicing that. So I did that with I dance as well, so it was performing. And that's another nerve-wracking thing. And then of course sharing online, that's like I think shining I feel like for me that word is confidence. Like
confidence. I'm very proud of my sister for doing that. And I always say that her own personal
How do you do?
I always say that her personal social media page is such an expression of her evolution, and I'm just very proud.
Oh, that's so lovely. And I think important to always hear, like, I'm sure that you both tell each other all the time that you're proud of each other, but I think that it's such again, these are why I do the podcast, these moments of just like beauty, you know, like, well done for both of you in just going for it. I think so many people just hold themselves back, or again, they're trying to mold themselves to what they think that they should be doing instead of what they are. And I think when you take away that shackle of expectation or what you thought you should be, and you're just like, this is who I am, that's when you give yourself that permission. And I really feel like that's kind of both of your examples there. But how can people find you if they've really enjoyed what you've said and they want to get involved in property? How can they find you?
So you can find us on Instagram.
We're very active on Instagram.
Love Instagram. Try TikTok, got intimidated and then ran away. But Instagram at Honest Property Sisters. We also have a podcast called Honest Property Pod. You can find that on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, where else is it? Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. It's basically that, it's more than likely there. And if you have any questions about learning how to invest in property, feel free to DM us.
Or you're looking for a supportive community, then just DM us.
We're friendly, promise.
You definitely are friendly. It's there. We can feel it. And I'll put all your links in the show notes so people can find it straight away. And the last thing that I love to do on the podcast is I like to do this segment called Soul to Soul. And it's essentially, you can both give your own individual one if you both want to, but it's whatever you feel like based on the conversation that we've covered that you feel like someone else needs to hear right now.
If you are like, this is a message to all the people who don't feel like they fit in. It doesn't matter, and use it as your superpower, because that means that you don't need to care about what other people think, so you can just go ahead and do it anyway. Go ahead and do it.
Be Delulu.
Be Delulu. We can be Delulu all together.
I love that. I love that so much. And my quote that I always say is, you are the only you there is, and that is your superpower. So we've just echoed the same thing, which I absolutely love. It's been so wonderful to have you on, Becky and Ruth. And I look forward to watching your journey and just seeing how everything evolves in the most beautiful way. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us. I hope we meet in person one day.
Yes, definitely.
Bye.
Bye.
If this episode resonated with you, please do like, follow and share with someone that you know would benefit. If you're looking to dive in deeper to becoming your most unapologetic, most authentic, shining self, please do head to my website and join my newsletter, where you will find out about all of my upcoming events and speaking opportunities and all of the things that I have going on. And also, if you would like to work with me, please do drop me a DM on any of my socials or through my website. Love and light.